Welcome to episode 10 of the Publishing Persuasion. This is a special drop coming to you just after Christmas. You thought you'd seen The Last of Us, but you have not. You are getting a surprise bonus episode today. And yes, I am introducing today. And that is because we have a very, very special, the best guest that I could ever have dreamed to have on our podcast. My amazing, talented, beautiful, hilarious co-host, the Angela Montoya.
Melanie, I just got emotional. I didn't mean to. It just came and just started feeling feelings.
I've been feeling emotional for this episode all day, so just let it out. It's the raw, genuine emotion, and
I don't know where it came from, but as soon as you said welcome to the podcast, and I was listening to your seductive voice, I was just feeling. I was just thinking, God, you sound so good when you introduce this. And the fact that you're introducing me, I was just I got a little overwhelmed in the best way. So
I wouldn't have it any other way. And you're going to set me off if you keep going. And I think that we have a lot of feelings about this episode, and it's our 10th episode. We've been doing this for a while now. So I guess it feels momentous that you are our 10th guest, and we have some very exciting news to share with our listeners. So it's so exciting that we had to make an extra episode. And Angela, why don't you tell our listeners your exciting news?
I got a book deal. I sold my book. Sinner's Isle is going to be a real book. I am in shock. It's happening. So I am going to be an official author. I am shocked and in awe and excited and terrified. I'm all the things. What's that?
I'm not shocked. I'm deleting shocked out of the vocabulary. It is exactly what I expected. Nothing less for that amazing book. And it's just been incredible watching this last year and everything that's transpired and how long you've waited. So there is no surprise on my end.
Oh, thank you so much, Melanie. Yeah, waited is the thing. I think, going through pitch wars and watching some of our friends get deals just right off the bat and kind of thinking, oh, maybe that's just how it goes, was kind of at first a little bit rough, I think. You're just thinking, oh, this is how it's supposed to go, but it's not. Everybody's journey is so different, and it's one of those things where honestly I think it all came into place right at the right time. It I wasn't probably mentally ready for this book deal yet. I needed some time to get my shit together, center myself. And so it really did come just as the most beautiful Christmas present. And I just, as soon as all the stuff started happening, I just messaged you guys right away in our little group chat with Jessica Para and Courtney K. I just had to tell somebody that it's happening.
I'm emotional now too. Only your fellow writer friends understand how big this moment is, because there is so much no in this industry and there is so much waiting, and you have waited. What was the gap in the end between Pitch Wars and your deal?
I want to say, well, we started, so here's the thing. We started in July, I want to say, subbing, but we started subbing to only adult imprints.
Yeah.
And so, thinking that we're just going to bump it up and try and sell it as an adult novel, adult fantasy romance. And I was like so excited about that. And then maybe a few months in, we weren't really getting that many no's. We just weren't really hearing anything. And it's just how it's been lately, editors, agents, they're just backed up. 100%. And so, so Larissa, my agent, came to me and was just like, hey, do you want to maybe try and shoot for some young adult imprints? And we can kind of just keep it as is and see what editors say, because the voice is young adult, like the characters, the heart of the story, like really belongs in that crossover space. And so I was excited. I was like, yeah, let's go. And really soon after we started subbing as young adult is basically when we started getting interest. And a lot of it was because an editor had already seen me from Pitch Wars, from like the showcase and all of that. And so when my manuscript came across her emails, she was just like, yes. And so her excitement kind of spurred on other editors' excitement, and it just snowballed into this wild thing that, like, literally for months I had heard nothing.
Yeah.
And then all of us, like nothing, like no, hardly any passes, like nothing, really nothing. And then all of a sudden it just jumped into almost like this frenzy of editors, and I was just like screaming for weeks.
Yes, we're still screaming.
Yeah, still screaming.
Your friends are still screaming, and we'll be screaming forever, because it's just wonderful. And it's like, I feel like it's such a good, I mean, it was torture for you waiting, but I feel like it's so encouraging to writers to know that, like, sometimes, because I agree with you, it was probably quite discouraging, like seeing the early stuff and being like, oh, well, that's not happening for me. Like and it makes you wonder, is the work any good? Is it like, but I feel like the way it's happened for you is a testament to sometimes it's just not the work. Sometimes it's just the industry. I had a rejection from like a year ago float through recently, and I was just like, at this point, that book is not even the same, people. Like, this is like, and I think it is a mark of the years that we've had. It's just everything is moving super slow. But I'm so glad that it came across their table when it did, at the right time. So tell us about the publishers that showed interest and who you've chosen to go with ultimately. And and your juicy deal, which we'll touch on a little bit more, the exciting things that are happening.
I had multiple editors from different publishing houses that were interested, and it was an absolutely wild ride. So as soon as one kind of knew that there was interest, not a bunch, but they started jumping on, and my agent started setting up Zoom calls. Yeah. And so I had these meetings with these editors, and I was just literally, I was so nervous. I was shaking, and like, I was, and they were all Zoom calls. So I was looking at these editors that, I had like cyber stalked and, and was just in awe. And I really vibed very well with all of them. And the fact that these different editors read my work and saw enough in it that they wanted to take it on was just such a weird moment. Yeah. So the funny thing is, like, Larissa, my agent, she called me when the editor that I ended up choosing, she called and she said, "Are you sitting down?" And I was like,
oh my God.
And she's like, she was just like, Nicola and David Yoon of Joy Revolution and their editor Bria want to have a meeting with you. And at first, like, it didn't click, like, what? Like, who? And she was like, Nicola and David Yoon of Joy Revolution. And I had to, like, literally, I had to be like, oh. And then my brain wouldn't, like, click into place. Like, she's talking about Nicola Yoon, David Yoon, young adult romance authors. Like,
big names.
Yeah. Like, my daughter has Nicola Yoon's books, like, on her shelves. Amazing. And so I almost died. But we had this Zoom meeting, and it was Nicola and David Yoon sitting together on their couch, like, at home, and it was Bria, my editor, and, like, and we just vibed so well, and they loved the book. And the whole time I'm sitting there looking at these, like, amazing people in the industry, and I'm thinking, like, no, like, they're like, I kept thinking, like, they probably didn't really read it all the way. Like, I don't know why. I was just thinking, like, there's no way. Like, how did they,
like, syndrome talking? And it's such a lying voice, because I was just listening to you say, like, these amazing people in the industry, and I'm like, you are an amazing person in the industry. And I think sometimes when we're at the early stages of that, for some reason we can't equate ourselves as, like, part of the industry or something. But you are like an amazing person in the industry, and people are going to follow your career and be like, oh, well, Angela got into Pitch Wars and then it took ages, and they're going to be like, okay, it's okay if it takes a while, because Angela's took a while and then she got a juicy deal. But just a juicy deal.
You know what, that's honestly so true, though, because I love to follow and listen up to other authors' stories, because it really is, it's not like, what do they say, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. I mean, this is, like, it really is such a game of patience, and you know, and it's kind of like hurrying up and then waiting, and hurrying up and waiting.
Yes.
And
it's like you have to be ready to sprint, but the race might not happen for, like, it'll just spontaneously happen, but you have to be ready to sprint at all times. It's very
that's good. Like, you got to be in shape. You got to be ready.
And you were ready.
Yeah. So we had multiple offers come in, and so we went to auction, and I ended up going with Joy Revolution in a 6-figure 2-book deal.
Let's hear that again for the people in the back. Say it again. Don't say it quietly. Scream it from the rooftop. My girl got a.
We got a 6-figure 2-book deal.
I feel like there should be music playing. We're just dancing and vibing in our apartment.
Yes, it needs to be that song, Courtney. Like, whenever I had, like, my first meeting with an agent, she was like, you need to listen to All I Do Is Win.
Yes.
And that song hypes you up like
so
crazy.
much.
And that's what needs to be playing right now. It's like,
I was singing that in my head, but you can't tell my dodgy dance moves. Nobody should have to see that. Also, just for our viewers, if they keep seeing me fiddling here, I'm not just randomly filling myself up. I have a puppy here. She's eating my dress, just in case you're what's going on with those hands, Melanie?
Yeah, what's down there? What's going on?
She's a little cheeky demon, so she's sitting in my lap for this episode. Oh, yes, honestly, I'm perpetually on a high about this, and you've just worked so hard, and I'm not going to let you play it down at all. I think like it's instinctive to feel like we have to play it down, like we shouldn't like be tooting our own success too much, but you've been working like so hard for so many years, and we're just going to be screaming about it forever. And I just like the fact that I'm going to have physical copies of all your books on my shelf in the near future. I'm just like, I am building a special shelf for my friends' books.
And to honestly, like my favorite thing of all of this was like telling you guys and hearing your guys, your like excitement. I should have like kept or found a way to save it, but when I told you guys and your first like voice message was you were like, Angela. And it just made me so happy. And then, like Courtney K's exclamation points, like boo, 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 boo. And, and Jess, she sent me messages, and it was just like reaching out to my writer friends to to my friend Kelsey Gonzalez, my friend Megan Curtis, and of course like Margie Houston, my Pitch Wars mentor, like getting to reach out to them and tell them what was going on. And you guys was the best thing ever, because you guys were so excited for me that it made me excited for me. If that makes sense.
Of course.
Because there's nobody that knows.
Excitement is supposed to be shared. And that's the thing. Nobody knows yet. This is like one of the first touchstones to like, it's gonna be hard to wait, but we needed somewhere to direct all this excitement. But like that's the thing. Excitement is supposed to be shared, I think, for that reason. Like if you're just sitting with it by yourself, it doesn't feel real or something.
Yeah, totally. Like just not being able, because it's when we're recording this, it's not been announced or anything. And so getting to just talk about it right now does make it feel more real. And like I've only told like my sisters and my like a few family members. Like I haven't, she won't listen to this, so I can say I haven't told my mom, because my mom will not be able to keep it in. Like she will share it on every platform that she is on. So that's like I couldn't.
Horrible. Totally understand.
Yeah, I will be getting calls from random relatives as soon as my mom knows. So it's just nice to sit and talk about it. And like it's weird. It's so exciting. And like, and I really do feel like it's not like I did it. It feels like we did it, like all of us, like my Pitch Wars family, like all the people that have like beta read for me, all my critique partners, just like family that is just like, let me bitch or let me like hide away. Like, it just feels like a we thing, and so like, it's so like, I feel like getting this deal was like okay, like you guys put your trust in me to do this thing, and I was able to do it, so it just feels good.
Oh, you gave me a little shiver, and now the only problem about being your co-host is that then we get emotional and set each other off. But exactly that. Like, I think that's the thing. That's maybe why the excitement is so like pure and like on steroids, because these aren't just your writing friends. Like, we've all read it, and we've all like, bounced off ideas and been there and seen your journey with it. And it's just, it's like little book babies. I'm like a proud auntie of your book baby.
You are.
It comes out of my mouth sometimes. Why do you put up with me? But you know what I mean. Like,
no, I do. I feel that way for
really
sure.
Yeah. I want you to tell us a little bit about your journey that got you to this point. Like, I don't think I've even ever asked you when you started writing.
Yeah, well, it's interesting.
Too far back?
It's funny because it's true. Like, we know everything, but like not that, which is like
totally
why? Yeah. No. So I started like in early 2017. It was just kind of like a random thing. Like,
really,
we had moved into our new place, and I had stopped working because like we had so many like renovations, and it's a little farm or whatever. So a property. So we just had so much going on. And so I was kind of like lost for a little bit. Like, I didn't have a thing, like I had been working. I used to dance. Like, I didn't have a thing anymore that I did. And so actually my partner was like, hey, you love to read. Your family are all writers. Why don't you try writing? And I literally like took his laptop, which I still use. I use his laptop.
That's why your name comes up as Adrienne.
So it's like, it's not even my laptop. So I took it and I just literally just started typing. I didn't know what I was writing. I didn't know how to write, but I instantly fell in love with just like coming up with a random thing and running with it. And I like in particular chose like young adult, like fantasy. Well, for one, because I love reading young adult fantasy. Like, that's just my favorite genre. And like my youngest sister and I, like, that's kind of one of the things we bonded over, was like we would share books back and forth. Like, she went through Twilight, we went through Divergent, City of Bone. We read all these books together. And so that's just where it lied. And I wanted to start writing characters, of like Hispanic descent. I wanted to write girls that looked like me growing up, or my daughter, and it just like bloomed into this thing. And so like I somehow wrote a first book. And I have to like, again, like credit my friends and family that I would like feed chapters to, and like who kept encouraging me, because they were crap, but they kept saying, no, this is so good, like keep going. And and it was because of those friends and like my family, my sister included, like actually two of my sisters, it was because of them that like I just like got a chip on my shoulder, like I am good.
I love that you just shouted out those people, because I feel like I can think of straight away when you say that those early people who tell you there's something to it, that it gives you like the lift and the inspiration to kind of run with it, to be like, hey, I have a shot at doing this. Like, somebody sees value in my work, and those people do not get enough credit. So I love that you brought up like the early people who it sometimes can be just like a random kind word, like, wow, I love that description, or like, that sounds really exciting. And you're just like, because there's also the other kind of people who shut it down. And I don't know where that comes from, but there is like a huge alternate to the positive people who, for some reason, when you bring up these beautiful things that you're trying to do, they feel the need to shut it down. I'm not sure where
Yeah.
that comes from. Maybe they'd never got a chance to explore their creative side or something, but mad shout out to the people who like encourage us from the start.
Amen. And that's true, because like once I learned what a beta reader was, because like while you're starting to write, for
Yeah.
me, I just like I went through YouTube, like I watched any video there was about writing, right? Like at the time it was Kim Chance, she's not on YouTube anymore, but like Alexa Dunn, Jenna Morrissey, like I can't remember. There's like anybody that had a YouTube channel, I watched. And that's how I learned about beta readers. And like there was some really rough beta readers at the beginning. And granted, like obviously they knew so much more than I did at the very beginning. But like you said, like you don't have to be that mean.
And I would question, did they know as much, like more than you? I find that I know exactly the kind that you're talking about, and they don't actually want you to shine. They're like threatened by your idea or something. I've experienced that in a class before.
It does. It comes like a punch, and so now, and I think that's what I learned as I beta read, like it doesn't have to come that way. It can come as a suggestion. It can come as
Exactly.
I want your story to be the best it can be. Here's what maybe can help, not so much of like, this sucks, take it out, you're garbage. So, like there's ways of going about, but honestly, yeah. And there was one, and I wish I like kept her information, because I can't even think of her name, to be honest. It's been so long, which is terrible. But she did hybrid. So she had like books published and then she published herself. But she like encouraged me through each like chapter, each thing. Like she would give me tips on how to write better. And it changed me. It changed the way I wrote. And she didn't have to do that because she was already doing things, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so for her to take the time to talk to like a little guy was like, it changed me, and it really helped me up my writing game.
Yeah.
And I should really try to remember her name.
It's all right. Sometimes it's hard to remember all the people on the journey, and maybe at that moment you didn't realize straight away, like, because I know there's been people like that in my past and I didn't realize what they were when I met them, because it can be really confronting getting that advice early on too. And I know that there was times when the opposite, when you would get great advice, you'd be like, what do they know? Like, why would they tell me to do that? Like, that's terrible. They're just jealous. And it's false. They're trying to help you, but like maybe you weren't ready for that advice. I've experienced that. So maybe it's just a part of, maybe she'll see this and reach out and be like, oh, I'm so glad. But it's really magical when those people take the time, because I know that I was not ready to receive some of that early on. So
totally. Yeah. And so like the first book I ever wrote, it took me forever to write it, but like it ended up being, it's still really special to me. It'll always be. It was called Kiss the Gods When I'm Gone. And it was this, I mean, it was so many like basic things that like, it's like every new writer puts in a book, right? But like the characters are still there for me. And the like love story is like still so good in my head. But I pitched it to Pitch Wars in 2018.
Yeah.
Heard nothing. But like that gave me the Pitch Wars like in of meeting people. And then I got into author mentor match with it.
Yeah.
And she was giving me advice, and like and at that time I wasn't ready for that advice. Like I couldn't, like for some reason, like take it in of what she was talking about.
Yeah.
And it was a lot about the world building. And I just still could, like, it wouldn't go through my head on how to fix it. So I gave it to Kim Chance and then Megan LaCroix, and they kind of helped me. It was like, hey, have you heard of Save the Cat? Have you heard of like an inciting incident? Maybe like, have you heard?
It's literally like that though. I don't know why. Like it literally takes the right person or the right encounter, and you're just like, huh, I have been missing the crucial elements of storytelling without even noticing. How else can you know? Because when you get into it, of course, everybody just says to be a writer, you need to write. And so you're like, well, I'll just write. But
there's things.
You need more. Maybe perhaps to be a writer, all you need is to write. But I think to get published, and particularly published traditionally, which is something that you wanted, I think that there are things.
Just like basic like story structure. I think we need to figure that out. We need to learn that, and then we'll get. But yeah, I know. And so I put Kiss the Gods When I'm Gone. I put it down. And I honestly was really close to even like considering self-publishing. But then like once I learned about it and all that goes into it, it intimidated me like crazy, because you're doing everything yourself, and I am not that girl. I am not that girl.
People think self-pub is a quick fix, but realistically, the people who are doing it well and are having things happen for them are working just as hard, and it takes just like there's a lady I follow, shout out to another Melanie. Actually there's two, and those two are the ones I look at. I'm like, they are grinding so hard to get their books seen, to get them polished. And so things happen slowly, bit by bit, but it's kind of is the same. Like from what I can see, it takes just as long to build your profile. It's like, it's hard either way. And I also was intimidated by that a bit, like, because then you have to be the agent, the publisher, the editor. There's a lot.
Yeah. No, I need someone to hold my hand. So I was not that girl for myself. I needed somebody. So yeah, like self-publishing, indie authors, like my hat goes off to them, because it's so much. It's a lot, and it's scary. Like to come up with your own cover design, forget about it. I would literally like have, I don't even know what on my covers. So yeah, so I put it down. I put not Sinners Out. I put Kiss the Gods down. Like when I had queried it for a while, and I kept getting the same thing, which was it's missing something. And so I put it down and started reading books on craft. I started reading like Save the Cat, like Story Genius, just Big Magic, which isn't really like a craft book necessarily, but letting go and just like letting this creative thing be, and watching more YouTube videos, reading about writing. And then I got the idea for Sinner's Isle, and I tried to plot it out, because now I knew what a plot was. So I tried to plot it out, and I had an entirely different story plotted out. I always knew who everybody was, but they played kind of differently in the book I plotted out. But once I started writing it and let it flow a little bit, it turned into this magical story. And here we are.
And what a journey it's been on.
I think that's the thing, is like not giving up. It's okay, maybe one story's not working right now. Let me go back and either go back and rework that story to see why it's not working, or just try something new to see if maybe something needs to unlock in my brain. And that's what Sinner's Isle was for me. That was the unlocking. And I struggled through it. Like, it was not an easy thing to write, because it was like the second thing I wrote, and I knew I had all this knowledge. And so I was trying to play the game and write. And so it was a different experience, but like, I did it and I didn't give up. And so here we are.
And that's the truth though, isn't it? Like, one no can be the no before your yes. It's literally that. Like, it might seem out of reach or impossible when you get no's, but it literally, that perseverance, like giving up on this book when it could be your next book, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure you were discouraged when your first book didn't get into pitch wars and getting that kind of feedback. But instead of like letting that destruct you, you let it grow you, you know? And literally like a day's difference, a book's difference between a life-changing book deal and between stopping writing, because you see people slip away as well who kind of like, oh well, like it wasn't for me, or like, and they give up, and you just never know, the yes could be around the corner. And I think that's kind of what's exciting about it all. Like, it is hard, all the waiting and stuff, but that's why now the excitement is just through the roof, because you did it.
That's it. And it makes it feel so much, not that I earned it, but I did. Like, I didn't give up, and I sunk in my teeth and I just kept going. And to me, more than anything, like, if for whoever's listening, like, just keep going. Like, just keep learning and meeting more people in the community, because they're going to be ultimately like what encourages you to keep going. Like the friends that I met along the way, obviously you, this podcast, like all these things, all these times you say yes and like sink in more, it's only going to keep you going and like keep your head on straight. And so like, when Larissa first like emailed me about an editor's interest, like obviously the first people I went to were my writing family, and like, because they get it. And, obviously like my family is so excited because they've seen all the crap I've gone through to get here. And, all the early mornings, all the times I've yelled at them about Wi-Fi, all these things, they've been here. So, but the writing family and community just gets it. And
so exciting. So have you gotten your edit letter yet? When do you get your edit letter?
No. So hopefully, I think in January sometime is, because everybody right now is on their little Christmas, New Year's break. So I'm just taking this like few weeks. I'm working on like synopses for like different ideas, whatever, because it's a 2-book deal, but we don't know what book 2 is. It could possibly be a sequel to Sinner's Isle, or it could be something completely new. So I've just been working on ideas, but mostly I've been reading and relaxing and watching like TV. So just preparing, because Pitch Wars really does prepare you for what's to come, because that edit letter, like I'm already ready for the horror of like the pages of just like all the things that I need to fix. So I'm ready. I'm in the game. My head is like clear and ready, but because I know it's coming.
Now I'm going to do something terrible to you and you're going to hate me for it. But for those people who haven't heard about your book, Sinner's Isle, can you give us a bit of a pitch? Tell us
I don't know what it's about.
I love your reel. If you're not following Angela, she makes the best writing reels, and the reason we're both chuckling is she made one on this the other day about how when you're asked to pitch your book, in the moment, it's like, well, it has a dragon.
There are things happening. Yeah, I got nothing in my brain. As soon as you asked me, it all flew out the window. So yeah, Sinner's Isle, it's a dual point of view, young adult fantasy romance. And it follows two main characters. There's Rosalinda, who is what we call Majestics. So she has magic in her, and only certain girls get these abilities. And it could be anything that comes out. It could be the ability to make things grow. It could be the ability to, like harness the wind. But she is kind of cursed and blessed with this ability to control these like shadows, these phantoms that are inside of her. And when released, they could do anything. They could do the worst of the worst. They can, or help her, but the whole thing is to control them. So all these Majestics are sent to, basically on exile, to live on this isle and serve the king and his court in any way they want. And she and her best friend are ready to escape. And so like the night before, like this big fiesta begins, they try to escape and they get caught. And so her friend is taken away. And so now it's up to Rosalinda to basically like free her friend and get off the isle before the king or prince like take her to use her powers basically for the worst things possible, right? To do whatever. And so she happens upon the second person that's in this dual POV, which is Mariano, who is this scoundrel pirate that gets marooned on the isle that she's at. And so she basically blackmails him to help her. And just some shenanigans happen, and just all kinds of fun things. And it's about these two, him either deciding to help her or just like leaving, and her basically like forcing him to help her. And so that's the basic like premise. And we'll see once I get my edit letter.
And I think that those two just have such great on-page chemistry. It's like that kind of like teasing, argumentative banter heat,
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's my favorite. It's like the stuff I just live and die for. If there's not a little bit of romance in something, I don't want it. I don't want to read it.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, their chemistry is just, it was so fun to write, and I became obsessed with them. And then I became obsessed with the characters around them. Santiago is just, he is a like,
I love him.
Yeah, he was such a like, if he was a real human, like I would be sitting next to him right now, just like there's just so many, like it was just so fun to write. And learning how to understand backstory that I didn't have in my first book, that I didn't know yet. And so like learning to have all this backstory that happens that the readers will never know, but so you can kind of slip it into the story and make them feel real. Yeah. And so, like I just love the two. I just love Rosalinda and Mariana together. And
I'm getting excited again listening to you talk about it, and I'm having like this weird out of body experience of like, this is my friend and her book. Like, it's so exciting. Like, I've read the book before it's in the shelves. It's like writer-friend goals. But that what you were saying about the backstory, I'm doing that Lisa Cron course, Story Genius now. And that's like, it hits that on the head. Like, I don't think I've ever had it explained to me why it's so important. And that's what you've said, that like a lot of stuff doesn't go on page, but without knowing that in advance, you can't, it changes how everything your character does is influenced. She just explains it so well. She's just like, two people walk into a room and somebody might turn around that pillow because there's a dog on the pillow. Maybe their dog died, and they don't want to look at the pillow. Another person walks into the room and they might put their feet on the pillow. It's such a minor thing that if you knew the story and it was important and the dog had died, then that this character can't look at it. There's a really obscure example, but there's a fox on that pillow over there. So I hurt myself giving you this example and I felt regret.
Just turn it around.
Yes. I adore all your characters so much, and I just think this book is just fire, and it hits so many notes. The magic is just delicious. Like, it is delicious, and I could just have all that magical element. Just give me all of it. Give me all of it. Give me more. I'm so here for it. I hope they want a number 2. But I will read anything you write. As you know, everything you write, I love. So.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm excited. Like, it makes me feel more excited talking to you about it right now because, since I haven't looked at it in months. Yeah. And so, it just makes me excited to want to dig back in and do better. So I definitely want to get into that Lisa Cron. Is it on YouTube or her course?
I'll send you the link. I think it's like a web page, and it was on sale down from $100. I always feel like I'm doing a promo when I do, but it's down to $24 from $100. This makes it way more affordable. I'll send you the link. I think it's just her website, how Save the Cat is for the online stuff. And then
no, you have sent it to me before, and then I just didn't do it. But now I'm I have to do it because all those little things just add up, or little things like that maybe you say something like the pillow thing, but in the next chapter, that's when it comes out, right? So all these things build up to make this well-rounded story that feels grounded in reality. So I definitely want to do that.
That's what she said. When you feel empathy for a character, or when the character is really drawing you in, it's because the author has done a good job of filling out the backstory, even though it will not be on page. And it is the pillow is a ridiculous example, but it's actually good because that it is those little micro things. And I'm noticing it now in what I'm drafting, stuff that the character is doing by having sat down and thought about what is her backstory. And it's not even something that you have to sit down and take days and days to do initially. I kind of started off with a little bit of she's unlucky in love, and she has, so it's the warped truth that you've told yourself. So and once you look at the world through that lens, it's something you've learned. It might even be minor. It might be something I don't know now. In my book, it's she feels she's unlucky in love. And she's just some people are lucky in love and some people are unlucky in love. And she's convinced herself of this. So it kind of changes the lens through which she interacts with the world and how she sees people.
That's good. Yeah, with Rosalinda, for her, it's just kind of everything she loves. She feels she basically destroys everything she loves. And in her backstory, you kind of learn why she feels that way. And it affects everything she does. Yeah. And so it's such a key thing. And I didn't have that in my first book, and I'm learning it as I go. So I'm just hoping that the more I learn, the better I'll get, and the more books I can write. And it's just it feels good. I'm gonna have, it just feels good to have these Latinx characters in the forefront, and you just don't see it enough in it for me, especially growing up. And so now, like, my kids will be able to, or my cousins, my whatever, are going to be able to look at these characters and maybe somehow see themselves reflected. And so that to me has just been the most rewarding thing. And it was such a full circle moment because I wrote, with my kids in mind, like that someday maybe when they're a little older, they'll read these books, but to have Nicola Yoon want to back my book, and her books are on my kids' shelves. It was just such a cool moment. It's all connected and we're doing it. So I'm just excited.
I feel so honored and happy that we are able to have this episode for you. And I'm so glad we have the pod to scream about it, because it's not enough just being quietly in the corner, people do who don't have a podcast to scream about these things. Do you know what I mean? I've just been waiting to scream about it since you told us, and just being able to do it in this way makes me so happy as your friend. And I just cannot wait. I'm going to be buying all of there's going to be no stock in the shops in Australia because I'm going to be I'll take those and then I'll gift it to that person.
Heck yes. And that's what a good writer friend does. A good friend in general. That's what a good friend does, right?
Yeah. I just literally feel like I've spent the last hour fangirling over you. I actually felt a bit shy and excited to interview you. I was just
oh. It's weird. It's weird because for the last however many episodes we've been doing, it's always us, talking about other people's stuff. And so to talk about your own stuff is weird a little bit. But it feels good and exciting to just kind of remember the book. It puts me in this headspace of okay, I got this. Game on, let's go. And so
totally got this. And it was great pre-pitch wars, it was great post-pitch wars. It's gonna be with these kinds of editors' eyes on it, I can only imagine how epic it's gonna be. I'm just putting it out into the universe, manifesting your movie, manifesting
give it to me.
I feel some themes and stuff lean themselves more, some books lean immediately more to something cinematic as well. And I can immediately picture yours as a movie.
Yeah, put me on Netflix.
Give me some sexy pirates. Give me some sexy magic.
Right?
Sexy, beautiful magic. I feel we talk enough about Rose's phantoms and how amazing they are, but we're gonna fangirl more when it's time for book launch.
Melanie, I don't even know. I don't know what to think.
I know exactly what to think, and that's why I was I need to get this girl to do a podcast with me. Because you have star quality and you're very humble and you always play it down, but you are a star. And I will be screaming off the rooftops forever about you. And yeah.
I love you. I love you. These are the kind of friends you need, everybody. You need friends that are going to scream louder than you. You know what I mean?
You really do.
Yeah.
Do, because it is it is hard to keep yourself in that mindset / impossible. I really think you do it, and we talk about that a lot, about the community, how that changed things for us. But yeah, it's so nice to have, and it's so exciting to see you come to this moment. And I don't even know if, people know at this point that we met in Pitch Wars, and just watching you over the year, and it was a tough wait. And you're a very positive person, like, but I'm sure there were some really like dark moments in there that were hard to, navigate. And
Oh, totally.
yeah.
Well, and even what's weird is like, even after all of this happened, I was on this rush, this high of like, oh my God, I've got a book deal. And then I crashed into, oh my God, I've got a book deal. Like, I have to come through. How is this going to work? What if this is all pure, like, accidental? What if somehow I scammed my way into this? Like, how am I going to do a second book? Like, I crashed so hard, so fast. But then I had you, and I would just like send you whatever, and you're like, oh no, like this, and that. And I'm like, oh, she's right. Okay. Yeah. It's like, you have to have that community of people that are gonna help you like lift yourself up, because it's such a wonky business to be in, because you have the highest highs and the lowest lows. And then sometimes when you're in the middle, it's also depressing, because what's really happening.
I think every point has like a different low and a different high, but it really is a roller coaster. Like, even when good things are happening, like I remember that with Pitch Wars, that feeling like of just like, for some reason you just start to question, like, was it an accident that they picked me? Like, should I, like, you literally ask it. And I think that's why we need that community to just be like, it's not an accident. Your writing is great. Just keep writing. Good things are going to happen. Sometimes bad things will happen, but we'll be there to cheer each other on and encourage each other when that happens, and it's just this industry that we've chosen. Or I would argue that this industry has chosen us, because sometimes I feel like I'm at the point where I'm like, it feels like a part of my identity being a writer now. And it, like, very much from what you said, it sounds like writing called you and you answered, and that's that big magic that Elizabeth Gilbert talks about. It's really freaking scary. Like, all of this, putting yourself out there, the uncertainty of it all, it's not for the faint-hearted. But I think that you are great at listening to that big magic and following its call. And I'm excited to watch you keep doing that. And
you got me, Melanie.
I got myself too that time. I just love you, and I'm so proud of you and so happy, if that wasn't already like I've just spent the whole episode fangirling of you. But guys, my friend's gonna have a book, and I'm emotional. I'm really emotional.
I'm emotional that you're emotional, because I'm emotional.
Us sobbing at the end of the podcast. It might not be the best content, but it warms my heart. Okay.
That's it. That's all. That's it.
That's where we're going to end it. I'm sure I had other questions that I meant to ask you, but I just got lost in the moment of fangirling. And if we've missed anything important, we'll do it in the next one. And there will be a next one, and hopefully many more to come.
Yes. Big things happening for the both of us this year, Melanie.
I feel it. I feel it in the waters.
Ooh.
Exciting times. So thank you for the hot scoop. I can't say I was the best host ever, because
you were perfect.
I'm all over the place.
Perfect.
So where can our listeners find you if they're not already following you, which they should be?
They can find me on Instagram at Angela Montoya Writes, and also on TikTok, Angela Montoya Writes. And then on Twitter, I am Montoya's Angel. I thought was really clever. I thought I was really clever when I came up with that. It was like my original email from high school after Charlie's Angels came out. It was Montoya. So
God love you. I love that. Well, mine was terrible from back then. It was what underscore the. I don't know if you had Rove. No, that's probably just Australian. There was like this what the. I mean,
So clever.
it's
So
clever.
clever. Well, where can our listeners find you now, Melanie?
Not at what the. They can find me at Melanie underscore Schubert underscore writer, which I should probably, now that I say it, doesn't sound much better than what the. I should probably change that, but that's where you can find me on Instagram, where I live. So come join our community and cheer on my girl Angela as her book gets. It's gonna be a busy year. It's gonna. Woo!